This is Managing Mayhem.
Brought to you by two lawyers and a layman.
Because good intentions are not a legal defense.
Wait, I'm sorry, they're not? Okay, well, let's get going then. Hello, and welcome to Managing Mayhem with Patty, Jeff, and Jack, your three favorite people you don't really know, but you sometimes listen to. Today
Get to know our voices.
sometimes. Okay, so we got a question that I think is kind of an interesting topic. Maybe divisive, honestly, but exciting first and foremost. We got a question about bringing dogs into the workplace. We've had a couple employers have their employees asking if they can bring their dogs into the office. And I think it's kind of a sneaky little topic. What do you guys think about it? Should dogs be able to be there at the office or no? What do you think?
Well, I love dogs. I'm obsessed with our dog. I know you guys, I take a million pictures of Scout, our black lab. She works under my desk. She doesn't work. She sleeps.
Gorgeous.
But I also have my own business and I don't have to consider it for all employees and staff.
Right.
So I think that's a different story. So I am the dog lover side. I think there's positives, but I think we also need to look at some of the disadvantages. Jeff?
Okay.
Tell us how you really feel about dogs.
Oh, okay. So I will approach this topic with optimism and hope for a brighter future. Because
a little bit of grace.
When I was a young child, let's take us back to Boise, Idaho.
Please.
When we're driving around delivering Halloween party invitations. And for some reason, I got out of the car to deliver an invitation for one of your guys' friends.
It was Annie's friend, which was weird that you had to do that.
Yeah. So I get out. And
you got the long driveway.
Yeah, it's a long driveway. I step out of the car, and there's this pretty good-sized dog.
It's gotten bigger as you've told the story.
It's growling. It's foaming at the mouth, staring at me, and it just guns it for me. And I take off running. Very traumatic.
Yeah, I remember
scary.
being in the car, and I watched you kind of disappear behind the bushes to go deliver, and then I saw you run down. I thought, oh, where's he going? And then I saw the actually was kind of a scary dog run after you.
Right.
And I thought in my mind, that's going to be something he'll have to unpack later in life.
That's something he's going to carry with him.
Yeah, I was the getaway driver of the minivan, and we shut that door and we head out quickly. That was scary. I was really nervous about you getting hurt. I'm sorry. And the dog did write you an apology letter, Nico. I remember that.
I got a little card from Nico, and
that family's so fake.
It's not believable.
It's not a real apology.
Not a real apology. It wasn't written by him. So
also, if Nico can't say it to my face, he probably shouldn't say anything at all.
Right, exactly.
So the reality is, though, that 70% of U.S. households own a pet, and that number is big. I mean, 69 million have a pet dog, 45 million a cat. That's a lot of animals.
Well, and then over COVID, that jumped like 20%.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Everyone's getting a dog.
Now everyone's trying to give them back, which is sad. I mean, they are. I see this in news like, oh, wow. Because they can't work remotely.
It actually is kind of messed up because you're literally like, people just got it because they were lonely. And then all of a sudden they're back to their lives and work. And then they're discarding these animals. It does suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah. It is sad.
It is sad. Okay. All right. Well, also emotion, but cue the Sarah McLachlan music. It is sad. I think it's very sad when people buy animals and then they just like can't handle it.
You can't just rent an animal. Like it's not like a prom dress.
Right.
So I do want to say this though, before we kind of get into it. Today, we're not talking about
I'm already into it.
Service animals or emotional support animals or any medically requested dog to be in the office. We're not going to address that. This is just, as Jack said, we've been getting a lot of questions from employers about, hey, we've had a lot of requests. Can people bring in their dogs?
I don't want to leave my pupper at home,
Right, or they're great with people, kids, let's bring them to the office. And, and so
I'm grateful.
Companies want to, they like it, especially in the summer months.
They love it. They're begging for it. They're desperate for dogs in the office.
Get them in there
for years. Come on, why are you guys holding back on your dogs? Well, I actually this is a time that I'm grateful about the United States because while we have a lot,
I'm glad this is the time we're grateful about the United States.
Well, right now there's just like so much stuff I'm not grateful for, but I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But like, as far as animals go, I'm glad that dogs are the most popular here because, like in the UK, apparently reptiles and ornamental birds are very popular. So, I mean, it might be kind of fun to have those in the office, but I think I'd prefer a dog and not like a snake being like, "Hey, dude," I mean, like, Jesus.
Well, and your sister Katie does not like birds, so that would
They're the
be
worst. I think
that would be terrifying.
And also just like the feathers and the mold.
Jack had a bird once.
That is my trauma.
I mean, if we're gonna bring
that
up,
is my trauma.
If we're gonna bring up animals,
I got a bird and I named it Hedwig, and I thought it would be great, and then he got an infected eye.
Did you let it go?
Mom, he got an infected eye. He was really mean. And then he took over my room. And every time I came in, he was just
horrible.
in his little thing. And then all of his skin was just floating in the air.
Oh.
And then he was just like, it was like so scary to go in my room. And I didn't let it go on purpose. But when I was cleaning the cage, he did get out. And I was surprised, but I have this real
Relief.
guilt. Yeah, I had the guilt. I have that guilt of I felt such a weight lifted.
Jack, I have to tell you, I'm so happy that bird went away. No guilt. You do not have to feel guilty. That bird was horrible.
I didn't mean to.
That bird belonged in nature with its clipped
Dad
wings.
actually quickly said, I said, well, he's in the wild. And Dad actually kind of abrasively said, well, he's not meant to be in the wild. So
let's turn back
to the dog situation.
Yeah.
Dogs are even more than cats, right?
Right. Now, no one is really asking for cats to be at work, which is interesting. A few people have, but
no one's even asking for them.
It is overwhelming. 74% of people like dogs. I think 41% of people like cats.
Percentage.
I'm not trying to be, I like both cats and dogs, but
you're pretending.
Most people prefer to have a dog brought to work than a cat because, first of all, cat's hard to rein in. There's a lot more allergies. So, for purposes of today, we're talking about dogs. What?
Mom is like just masking the fact that she doesn't like cats. And also, just something that I want to talk about quickly is how sometimes I think people think this is a silly issue, but I think that also so many people view their dogs as a very large part of their family, like human being status.
Like our dog.
I know that in our family that works. I know that my name and Scout's name are interchangeable, and I noticed that our presence at the dinner table is also just noted as the same. Like you couldn't tell the difference if it was just her or me.
So the fifth child.
Yeah, well, it's kind of two, both kind of melded together as one. So, are dogs allowing themselves at work?
Ours is.
Do our companies allowing these like requests to go through for just not a like a medical dog?
Yeah, I get what you're asking. I mean, it's
I can decipher.
I can understand.
Dog talk.
No, a small amount of companies allow for animals to be brought to the office, primarily dogs. But 52% of employees said that they would like more pet-friendly benefits and policies. That is something that is important to them when considering their employer. But a lot of companies, even bigger companies, they do allow it. I don't know, to what extent.
Right.
But they do allow dogs. So like companies like Amazon, Google, Salesforce, Ben & Jerry's,
Cool
Build-A-Bear Workshop. Didn't know they were still around, but
awesome. Can't wait to throw
go
my
check out
birthday
your
party
mall.
there.
Etsy.
Seriously.
There's a whole list of them.
But you know what I love on the list, Jeff? This is obvious. Purina, Pet Care, PetSmart, Petco. There's a theme on that. Obviously, dog-friendly businesses.
Pets.
So
Right. So, what are benefits of allowing people to do it? Because I've experienced some positive dogs in a place where I was working. One was at was a mandatory voice coach, which doesn't sound very good.
You're on Broadway in a musical and you have a mandatory voice coach.
No, we all had to go once a week to this person. Or maybe it was once a month. Maybe I was once a week. But she had a dog out in the front.
Was it the same as one of those quarter mandatory volunteer work you had to do as well?
Shut up. That I finished that. Okay.
That's picking up trash.
Quickly. Yeah, I remember. I'm kidding. That never happened. It didn't. But she had a dog in her lobby, and it actually was really relaxing. And then yesterday I was doing some like ADR stuff. It's like just you have to voice over some stuff that can get picked up or whatever. And I had to go to their studio, and they had a dog in their lobby too. And at first I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I love when a dog's here. But then I was like, well, what if like I had something like Jeff had happen, and I had like a weird reaction.
Right.
And the person checked, and they said, hey, are you comfortable with dogs? So both times I was grateful for the dog, but what are the benefits for most businesses doing
it's funny you say that, Jack, because when I look at what the American Kennel Club says are benefits to having a dog in the workplace, of course, they might be biased because they are the American Kennel Club. Right. There are also things to me that could be a double-edged sword, like you're talking about. So one of them was relieving stress and higher job satisfaction for the people that bring their dog versus those who don't. And I just keep thinking, well, they have higher job satisfaction because it works for them, but the person next to them is either terrified or annoyed. And so I could see the same benefit could be a negative to someone else. Also promoting positive interaction. It's a talking point, the dog, their icebreaker.
Yeah. I felt more comfortable talking to the receptionist because we were talking about the dog.
Right. So, kind of that small talk. And what are some other things you see?
God forbid two humans talk about anything they have in common.
Let's just talk about the dog.
So, seriously.
Rather
honestly,
than the weather.
At this point, let's avoid all topics.
I know a few companies that have done a survey just to see what are some perks, and they threw in there, whether a dog at work. They were actually surprised that didn't go high, even though people love their dog. So, you might want to check it out to get a pulse on whether this is something for your particular office, is something that people want before you offer it to a candidate.
Right.
If everyone says we don't want it.
Right.
Does it work with your office? What's it called? Like your office environment? Or I don't know.
That sounds good.
Great. Okay, so what are the disadvantages then? Those are kind of advantages with disadvantage potential, but what are the actual disadvantages?
Yeah, and one thing is when you're looking at whether it works for you, what kind of business are you? Are you healthcare that you have all these infectious control requirements that you can't have the animal? So yeah, that sounds great, but we can't go there.
Right.
So you do need to look at what type of business you are. That kind of goes without saying, but
no, that makes a lot of sense though.
Okay.
But some of the disadvantages that the AKC,
I want to talk about the AKC more.
American Kennel Club states are allergies. Obviously, the biggest one is allergies.
Right.
That's kind of that's a non-starter for a lot of companies. They just don't even want to deal with it.
And also, fear of dogs seems pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Nico,
as somebody, I will say this. Everyone's dog is very friendly with them in their house, in the dog's comfort and surroundings of where they live.
Yeah.
But, sometimes when
it's a big assumption. I think it's just a big trust thing when someone's dog is barking and running at you for them to yell at you. He's friendly, and you're like, friendly. He's barking and yelling. He's yelling at me.
Everything that's going on
he knows my name.
That's going on right now is saying something different from what you're yelling.
Jack,
well, the other thing, it's not fair to the dog, frankly, to bring it out of its comfortable environment, and then you bring it in and it's suddenly the dog's fault. Well, obviously one huge disadvantage are those distractions and disruptions, the barking, whining, fighting, the odors, having accidents, things like that, that are really the owner's, issue. But by bringing it into the workplace, that makes it problematic for HR to have to deal with and a manager to have to deal with. So that's what I would think would be a distraction. But obviously, we know what the biggest one is, right, Jeff? We learned it in law school. Dog bites.
Good old dog bites. If it bites one person once and you let it happen again, you're on the hook.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Oh, you're like
legally
to get into some trouble legally.
It's called the one dog bite rule. So if a dog dog bites once and you didn't know.
Dog bite once, don't do nothing. Dog bite twice, you go to jail.
Second time you were on notice. But it's not only dog bites. It's obviously slipping, tripping over the dog, hazards, falling hazards, going down the stairs and a dog darts in between you, scratching you. You know, we'll talk about that with dog policies, but even if you try to disclaim that it isn't on your premises. So there's premises liability. It is in this course and scope of work. And so that is probably the number one reason why employers don't allow it, is because of the liability risk and insurance issues pertaining to it.
Right.
Okay. So if you're gonna do it, what are the legal considerations that you should take?
Look at like the size of the dog. Like what kind of size of the dog are you gonna allow? What types are they? Dogs that shed, you know, do they have to be a non-shedding, non-allergen dog? So those are just kind of a couple things to think about if you're gonna allow them.
If you're going to allow a dog at work, I think you also have to decide if everyone's going to get a dog, or you have an office dog, or you take turns on having a dog on Fridays, you know, Dog Friday, or rotating dogs, whatever. You've got to decide what you're going to do.
It's now someone's job to schedule the dog rotation.
Exactly. It's hard enough to do staffing, but now you got to have dogs on Monday, Wednesdays. You know, a lot of owners say, I'm bringing my dog in. This is going to be the office dog. And that's their prerogative because they're assuming the legal risk. But whether you want to assume the legal risk of other dogs is another story. But first and foremost, if you're going to allow any of this, you have to have a policy setting forth what the clear parameters of when, where, you know, how, what type of dog. And then that individual owner would have to, would have to sign a pet agreement, you know, and that's going to be pretty... I don't want to say intense, but it's going to be pretty specific, thorough. Thank you. For example, you're going to need to have proof of vaccination. Some people say they have to have proof that the dog is fixed, neutered, you know, if you're going to have multiple dogs there. They're also going to have to show that they have no history of aggressive behavior or no tickets for that dog at large or, you know, or anything like that. It's like conducting a background check. Do they have any arrests and convictions? So.
But you're definitely going to have requirements as well that the dog has a tag. You may want them to be on a leash at all times, you know, except for when they're in the office. Another big issue is that dog's going to go to the bathroom, and you're going to need to make sure that if it does go to the bathroom, that employee is responsible for.
Then it's in your least favorite coworker's office.
Well, you guys, can we talk about AstroTurf? Because I actually went to an office where they allowed dogs at work, and everyone had their private offices, and they had those like child security gates. But some people had pieces of AstroTurf. This is kind of gross.
Oh no!
I'm sorry. The smell was like, oh my gosh, they need to take them outside.
Oh, that's outside.
Crazy. Yeah. That is crazy that even happened.
Yeah, not absorbing into dirt, you know.
It looks like outside.
So obviously they have to be house trained. I mean, first of all.
Right, they're going to have to be house trained. You're going to have to put in something that says the employee's going to reimburse you if the dog causes damage, either because of their bowel movements or they're just gnawing on the desk or scratching things.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to be able to get some money back when you have to replace stuff, because that's ultimately going to happen.
You also have to say the dog can't be left unattended, or, you know, you're not going to have a coworker, hey, you know, I'll be back in 3 hours. Do you mind? They have to be the sole person responsible for the care and oversight of that dog while it's on the premises, or don't bring it. So,
okay. So are there other things that people can, if they can't offer dog coming in, is there another, I don't know, puppy support?
Yeah, I actually think that, you know, if you look at how many million people have a dog and how many people have those dogs remotely and are now asking, we're getting a lot more requests from people, non-medical requests to bring their dog. They miss them. You know what I mean? I get it. I really like that my dog is under the desk, you know, with me. But there are other pet benefits that don't come with all those legal implications and risk. And a couple of them I would suggest is, one is a help subsidize pet daycare, you know, or some type of financial help for pet adoption or pet food or treats or, something like that. And I know what we're thinking about. You got to be careful here.
Well,
if you're not providing it for human beings.
Right.
This is what I would say. I mean, I think that those are great options to offer. But you could, if you have the funds to offer them in the first place, and if you're already paying for health insurance and the other benefits for the employee, but you may, if this is, within your budget, and if you're gonna do it for pets, you may say, hey, you know what? You can select either the pet, like a pet option of like, we'll increase your pay for a pet, whatever, or for like child care or some other additional options for people who don't have animals. So there is some sort of fairness
that's a good idea.
Right,
people can pick. I'd actually like some additional support for childcare for daycare because that's expensive.
Right.
And someone who doesn't have kids, they're like, oh, I can select the dog option.
Right. Jeff, I saw one policy where they were giving people an extra 2 days a year to volunteer at their child's school. And in that case, you could say, okay. And they did say if you don't have a child, you could just volunteer at the school. Just don't hang out after
Except
hours.
For Ronnie. Ronnie's not allowed to be in your school.
You can tell who's been a public defender for a long time. Ronnie can't go on the premises.
Well, it sounds a little weird, like a non-parent just like
why are you there?
School.
Why are you there at all?
But I do think this would be a good one to say. You can even it's volunteering, and it could be at a humane society, for example. That's a pet-friendly policy. If they'd rather not do it at a school, it could be at a dog school or a dog whatever. So they're both servicing the community. I just think a little more sensitivity to pet ownership would be, beneficial for recruitment, especially millennials are really pushing the pet friendly benefits. Other things I see are that this is a little more controversial. Pet insurance, pet costs can be really expensive. But if you're not offering group health, I would not go there on pet insurance. The other thing is pet bereavement leaves. I have seen those. I don't know.
I don't know. You could see, I mean, again, if they're doing it for people, they have to be doing it for people first, I think. And if they can do it for pets, that's awesome.
Or you can do the good old fashioned, I know there are companies who do this. They like bring just puppies to work for one day, for like an hour, and everyone gets to play with the puppies. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
The little baby puppies. I saw it on a Hallmark movie, so I don't know if it's real.
No, that's definitely how.
That might be where I've seen it. I don't know.
It's hard to know the difference between real life and Hallmark anymore.
Was it 13 days till Christmas?
I think the most important thing is to stay in touch. We've said this many times on other benefits and perks. Stay in touch with what really your staff find to be a priority. For example, if they really want a free turkey at Thanksgiving, or they'd rather have some dog treats, or they'd rather have a little time off, to volunteer at their child's school. It's more just doing surveys. And if you're seeing a lot of people that want pet-friendly benefits, that is something to really think about and add. And I like, Jeff, how you're saying it's not one or the other. Maybe you just have a different track of those perks, those supplementary perks. Obviously, we're not talking about instead of group health for a human.
No, but I like the idea of asking, just seeing what everybody wants, even just as a general rule with that kind of stuff. What kind? Just taking a little survey.
So surveys, anonymous surveys are great. So
Okay, this was good. Good talk on the dog stuff. Kind of curious, kind of interesting, kind of new.
Well, we have one last announcement. Jeff.
All right. Everyone needs to tune in to NBC on the 22nd because Jack is in an episode of Chicago PD.
That's right.
He's the guest star of that episode, so we're really excited to watch it.
Yes.
Congratulations, Jack. That's awesome. It's going to be great.
You.
Okay.
It'll be kind of spooky.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and we hope you have a mayhem, but lots of love with dogs, cats, horses, fish, whatever it is. Free
ornamental birds,
iguanas,
reptiles.
All
right,
mostly.
guys.
Have a great week.
Bye.
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 Managing Mayhem is presented by Management Northwest and Management Southwest and cannot be copied or rebroadcast without prior written consent. By listening to this podcast, you understand that we, or at least two of us, are lawyers, but we are not your lawyers. Therefore, nothing we say on the podcast should be taken as legal advice or considered to create an attorney-client relationship. It is solely meant for your educational and informational purposes. The podcast should not be used as a substitute for legal advice from an attorney licensed in your state. Please be aware that listening to lawyers can cause side effects such as migraine, self-doubt, and also may cure insomnia. But you know what? Trust your own judgment or you're not your mom.